He was standing in the dirt beside an old farmer. No lab coats, no wires, just a quiet field stretching out beneath a sky humming with silence. In the middle of it all, a strange machine pulsed faintly, its heart not beating from any fuel or outlet, but from something unseen. With nothing but stakes in the ground and coils in the soil, the farmer's entire property buzzed with power. And standing right there, with his coat flapping in the wind and a distant look in his eyes, was Nikola Tesla. This scene sounds like fiction, a whispered legend. But now, it might be something more. For nearly a century, the world buried the truth, buried him, the Serbian-born genius who gave us the very electricity that lights your room, cast aside, forgotten, and dismissed as a dreamer gone mad. His greatest work confiscated, his final ideas sealed away in dark vaults, and for decades no one questioned it. Not really, until now, because something changed, something unimaginable. In December of 2024, deep inside a cold, humming facility in Silicon Valley, Google flipped the switch on a machine that shouldn't exist, a quantum processor called Willow. A hedving kit labu leviathan, amali persik alateheti, amit minden shamitogip, a feldon, milliard evenat. You can't comprehend that scale. Nobody can. Not really. It's like asking a match to outshine the sun. Publicly, the headlines were muted. Just another tech story in a sea of breakthroughs. But behind the glass walls, hidden from the press and public, something unthinkable was happening. They weren't testing games or traffic models. They weren't simulating atoms or weather patterns. They were feeding this machine Tesla, not just stories or summaries, not theories, not history books. They fed it everything. Thousands of crumpled pages once seized by the FBI the morning after Tesla died alone in a New York hotel room in 1943. Pages locked away for 80 years, diagrams, calculations, phrases scribbled in Serbian and German, ink soaked with a century of dust. At first it was just curiosity, a side project. Let the AI scan, interpret, organize. But then it started solving. Equations Tesla had scribbled half-finished in the margins. Fragments scattered across languages and time. Drawings no one had understood. Now suddenly made complete. And what it revealed chilled the engineers to their core. Because these weren't the ramblings of a broken mind. They were blueprints. Detailed, intentional, mathematical blueprints. For extracting energy from the very air around us. For beaming power across the sky without wires. For unleashing weapons that make nuclear bombs seem like firecrackers. One senior researcher reportedly walked out of the lab mid-simulation, white as a sheet, whispering that the machine they just modeled worked. And if it worked in simulation, it could work in the real world. The scientific community wasn't ready. Some scoffed, some panicked. But a quiet group of minds understood the truth. Either Tesla had seen further into the future than any human in history, or Google's quantum AI had connected dots that were never meant to meet. But when those dots spelled out machines that actually functioned, machines the world had only dreamed of, that question stopped mattering, because the past was no longer past. It was knocking once again at our door. And before we can open that door, we have to go back. Back to the man who started it all. The boy born in a lightning storm in 1856. The outcast who saw electricity not just as wires and volts, but as language, as music. The visionary who looked at the universe and thought, why not pull power straight from the sky? His name was Nikola Tesla, and the story was just beginning. Before he was the ghost in conspiracy theories, before the eccentric interviews and the silence of that lonely hotel room, Nikola Tesla was just a child with too many thoughts and nowhere to put them. Born in a small village in what is now Croatia, Tesla would lie awake at night, terrified of vivid hallucinations. Images so real, they made it hard to tell what was dream and what was world. Most people called it madness, but his mother, a brilliant inventor in her own right, called it genius. And she was right. By the time he was a teenager, Tesla could see machines in his mind. Not just imagine them, see them, working, moving, colliding in space. He could spin them around, watch them fail, fix them, and rebuild them again, all without touching a single tool. While the rest of the world was scribbling drafts, Tesla's mind was already running simulations. And when he finally stepped into the world of invention, the world wasn't ready. Tesla gave us the alternating current that powers our homes. He built motors that seemed to defy friction. He designed turbines, wireless lamps, and oscillators that could shake entire buildings to their foundations. But even then, even in the height of his success, he was chasing something deeper. He wanted to give the world energy that cost nothing, pulled straight from the environment itself. Energy that moved without wires, without smoke, without power plants. And in the late 1890s in Colorado Springs, he started building machines that he believed could do just that. That's when the world started turning away. They called it delusion. They called him a crank. They whispered behind his back, then to his face. And yet Tesla didn't stop. He built towers that scraped the sky. He channeled lightning through copper veins. He claimed to detect signals, rhythmic pulses, from the stars. He said the earth itself could vibrate with power if you knew how to listen. He wasn't just building machines. He was reaching into something far older than science. But the money ran dry. Investors grew nervous. Newspapers mocked him. And slowly, piece by piece, Tesla's world was dismantled. His towers were torn down. His lab was destroyed by fire. And in his final years, he fed pigeons on a hotel windowsill while drawing up plans for machines no one would ever see. Until now. Because those plans, those sketches, those broken fragments of brilliance, they were never really lost. They were taken, boxed, hidden, classified. When Tesla died, the US government swept in within hours, not just to inventory his possessions, but to take control of his ideas. And the world moved on, until that winter morning in 2024, when the Willow quantum processor came online. When Tesla's fragmented notebooks were finally fed into something capable of understanding them. Not just reading. Understanding. The AI didn't stop at translation. It didn't just recognize words. It found connections no human mind had ever made. It pieced together multilingual metaphors, mathematical patterns, and drawings across hundreds of documents. It saw through Tesla's encryption, the layers of misdirection and buried meaning he'd woven to protect his work. And what it found? Not theories, not dreams, blueprints, step-by-step designs, devices that could harvest energy from the invisible fields around us. Frequencies that match cosmic anomalies we only began detecting in the last decade. A system of knowledge that spanned languages, centuries, and dimensions of science we still barely grasp. And at the heart of it all, a map. A resonance chart, hand-drawn by Tesla in 1899, that aligned almost perfectly with modern data from gravitational wave observatories and space telescopes. It wasn't a guess. It wasn't a lucky coincidence. It was real. He heard something. He felt something. Long before our machines could. And now that we've seen what he saw, the question is no longer if he was right. The question is, what happens when we build what he left behind? They said it couldn't be done. They said it defied science, that it was myth, fantasy, the desperate last whispers of a forgotten genius. And yet, in a quiet lab at MIT, something flickered. Using superconducting materials Tesla never had access to, tuned by circuits far more precise than anything built in 1901, engineers recreated one of the devices decoded by the quantum AI, a resonance coil, small enough to fit on a desk, humming with a frequency that didn't belong to any power grid, battery, or outlet. For a moment, the instruments attached to it spiked, not from voltage, but from something stranger, a burst of energy that didn't come from the device, but from around it, pulled in, amplified, alive. No one said a word. They just stared, because they knew what it meant. Tesla had done it, 100 years ago with copper, wood, and lightning in a bottle. He had found a way to tap into something modern science was only beginning to define, something buried in the structure of space itself. And now it was real. In Japan, another group quietly constructed what they called a Tesla amplifier. Their results were modest but unexplainable. Power flowing in patterns that shouldn't have been possible. Systems running at efficiencies conventional physics would scoff at. It wasn't proof, not yet, but it was something you couldn't ignore. And back in California, behind firewalls and security clearances, the Willow AI kept running, simulation after simulation, piece after piece. It had only scratched the surface of Tesla's archives. A few thousand documents out of tens of thousands still locked away in government vaults and private collections. But what it was uncovering was beginning to rewrite everything. Not with science fiction, but with science future. The kind Tesla saw coming. The kind we're just now catching up to. He wrote of amplifiers that could extract energy from the vacuum, what we now call zero-point energy. His journals, once thought poetic and cryptic, now translated by AI, revealed precise mathematical frameworks for frequency tuning, for energy fields, for particle acceleration that rivaled modern collider designs. And most disturbing of all, he had built prototypes. His notes, dusty, fragile, and half-burnt, described tests in Colorado Springs where light bulbs glowed with no wires, motors ran without visible power, and instruments reacted to something that, even now, we don't fully understand. Something not bound by the rules we thought were absolute, and this is the part that haunts you. None of it violates physics. Tesla wasn't breaking the rules. He was finding the cracks, the loopholes, the tiny seams in the fabric of reality where something else, something more, leaks through. Maybe that's why the government locked it all away. Not because it was nonsense, but because it wasn't. They knew, or at least they suspected. That's why they brought in Dr. John Trump to review the papers. That's why they classified Tesla's estate under the Office of Alien Property. That's why, even now, much of it remains hidden. And yet, technology marches forward. AI is catching up to minds we once dismissed as unstable. Quantum computers are solving problems that no human could attempt. And Tesla, the man who dreamed of lighting the world with the air itself, is finally being heard again. But this time, we're listening. So what happens next? Do we build it? Do we dare? Because if Tesla was right, the machines he left behind won't just power our homes. They could erase the grid, end energy wars, or unleash weapons too dangerous to imagine. It's a thin line between miracle and nightmare. But one thing is certain. The world can no longer pretend Nikola Tesla was just a myth. He saw the future. And now, with the help of artificial intelligence and the most powerful quantum machines ever created, we're standing at its doorstep.